Let's see, waiting for this to come up and check my levels and all that. Okay, we are live. All right, so from yesterday, I was trying to do ACI with Ansible. And I haven't really played with it, or at least the last time I played it with it was years ago. And of course, the Ansible environment has changed quite a bit since I took a look at it, and I forgot a lot of stuff. And what I was trying to do was create a playbook that would read a simple data model, a YAML file, that would contain all the information you would need to create all of the tenants, VRFs, bridge domains, subnets that you would want to do. But I ran into a problem with regard to loops and how the things looped. So I found a fix. And it was an interesting fix. I tried a couple of different approaches, but I found one that's actually very simple. And I would not have thought it would work this way. It's a little weird, but it works pretty well. And I want to give a shout out to the video that I saw that put me on the right track. You see my history here, and I'll put the video in the... Where's my history? My YouTube history. I'm very, very dependent upon YouTube for just about everything. Greg Sowell. And let me put his video into the chat. And that's how that put me on the right track. So I had to do a little bit different, some stuff that was a little bit different, but that was the thing, that was the catalyst for that. So thank you, Greg, for putting that video up there. It really helped me out. So the problem that I had was the way that I did the data model. So take a look at the data model itself. So I have a key called tenants, and then there's a list of dictionaries with each tenant. So tenant 1, VRF 1. Every tenant requires a VRF. Every VRF requires at least one bridge domain. Bridge domains may or may not have a subnet. So there's 4 levels here that we have to loop through. But the modules only create one aspect. They only create tenant or VRF or bridge domain or subnet. So I have to loop with one module that only creates tenants. So I can do that. That's not a problem. But a problem comes when I want to loop through the VRFs. Well, then I have to loop through the tenants and then loop through the VRFs under the tenants. And Ansible really did not want to do that. Ansible didn't have a way to do these nested loops. If I were doing it in Python, it'd be very easy because we could just do nested loops here. So I could have a loop, Python extension. Yeah, go ahead. So I could have a loop and then a loop and then a loop and then a loop. And that's not a problem. We have these nested loops, but there wasn't, at least I couldn't find a good way to do it in Ansible. So the solution came from using separate task files. And then you can do multiple layers of loop, like Loopception. So I should, that's what I should do. I should call this Loopception. And then I wish I had a soundboard. I could do the Bwaaabwaaa sound from Inception. So loops within a loop within a loop. And so this is what it looks like. Where to get playbooks? Did it not? Loop ACI. Did I not? Oh, shoot, I didn't push. I can't log into... I'll have to recreate this. Darn it. Okay, so... We'll just start with the loops, loop ACI. I didn't save and sync something I did on my other system, my other account, and I can't log into the other account while I'm streaming and while I'm connected into Cisco DevNet, because you have to VPN in, and the VPN client will not let you. Yeah, but I can. We'll figure this out. Okay. So I'm just going to use debug messages for now, and I'll show you how I do the loops. So I'm going to lean back for this. Tilt this down. All right, so we're going to start the first loop, and we're going to call this the tenant loop. And we're going to loop through the dictionary tenants, and that's in here. So it's tenants is there, and it's got several tenants, and we're going to loop through them. And so we're going to do tasks, and it'll be L1 tenant loop. I gave the tasks. You could do separate task files. I've never used separate task files. I've never felt the need to, but this was the way to fix this problem. And I gave them L1, L2, L3 just to show you the levels that they're at. So it becomes a little bit less confusing because we have 4 levels that we're doing. Let me tilt this down a little bit more. It's bothering me. There we go. All right, so we're going to kick off this loop, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop through the tenants, and then the name of the variable is going to be tenant loop, and that's going to get passed into the tenant loop. So this will kick off. So this is going to show us what it shows, and then it's going to run the VRF loop. So we'll specify this as L2 VRF loop. And it's going to loop through the tenant VRFs, and then it's going to create a variable called VRF loops. And that's going to go to L2, and that's going to run through the VRF names, and then loop through the bridge domains, and then and then we'll kick off the bridge domain loop, and then, so that'll be L3. And then that'll kick off the bridge domain loop, and then that will kick off the subnet loop. And some bridge domains might not have subnets. I don't think it's required. So we're going to set to ignore errors. The other ones will error out because every tenant has to have a VRF. Every VRF has to have a bridge domain, and a bridge domain may or may not need subnets. So if we don't do that, that's fine. And then it's going to print out. We don't have to kick off anything from the subnet loop because that's the bottom of it. That's the bedrock. That's the raw dream space. So let's go ahead and just run this playbook. So we're going to go into the Ansible directory, and we'll do loop ACI. Now, right now, all it's doing is doing debug messaging, and we should see the things that we want to see. Okay, couldn't find tenant loop YAML. Oh, that's because I didn't kick it off right. Yeah, so tenant loop. Yeah, couldn't find tasks, tenant loop. Where does it say tenant loop? Loop ACI. Oh, yeah, what I didn't do is I didn't set save. There's a thing here. It says autosave. Yeah, that's the problem. It wasn't saving the files. All right. Yeah, so it does the tenant loop. And we give it a name. So we're just printing out the tenant loop name. Let's go ahead and stop this. And we'll just do them one by one. So this is the first loop. And all we wanted to see was that it's printing out the tenant name, because that's what we're going to do. That's the information we need. And then from there, under each tenant, it's going to loop through its items, which will be the VRFs. So it's going to loop through the VRFs, because that's what we want to do there. And let's see that kick off. Couldn't find subnet loop. It didn't save for any of these. Let's try that. Task subnet loop. So that would have been in under bridge domain. Oh yeah, I didn't do L4. There we go. Yep. So that's, it says object has no attributes subnet. So like I said, some of the bridge domains won't have subnets in them, and that's okay. Sometimes they're just layer 2 bridge domains, but the other ones are required. So I do want it to error on those. So yeah, it's giving us the right information. So now we can plug this into the actual modules that create the tenants, the VRFs, the bridge domains, and the subnets. So let's do that in a separate step. So I like to break these things down into discrete parts. So we're going to do create tenant, and we're just going to create one tenant with one VRF and one bridge domain and one subnet, just to see that we get the parameters right in these modules. So we're using Cisco ACI. We're going to add tenant 1. We'll call it test 1. And then we're going to add a VRF, and it's under tenant test 1, and it'll create a VRF. Then we'll add a bridge domain, and it'll be under test 1, and under VRF tenant, we'll call this test 1. Call this test 1. And then we'll add a subnet for the bridge domain. Test 1, test 1. So we're going to run this playbook. And by the way, I was SSHing in, yesterday was SSHing into, the device, into the developer system. But I had to edit files just using Vim and not using VS Code and all the advantages to it. So I installed Windows Subsystem for Linux on this Windows box. So I've got a more native Linux environment that I can do. So let's go ahead and run the create tenant playbook and see if that gives us an error. Okay, so username, that was, did I put that? Where did we put username? Oh yeah, I need to put in some variables. So vars, username is going to be admin. The password is going to be, it was Cisco 12345. And the playbook, running it locally on APIC 1. Is that the admin? Oh yeah, misspelled Cisco. I keep making typos lately. I need to. All right, so yep. Cool. So this playbook added a single set of these, but if I had like 16 tenants, I may not want to do it this way. So I will, let's just check to make sure that it got added. So under tenants, there's test 1, and there should be a bridge domain, or it should be a VRF. Yeah, there's a VRF. There should be a bridge domain, and then there should be a subnet under the bridge domain. And there is. Okay, so I made this very simple data model, and it took me like 3 minutes to make. That's got all the information that we need to build up multiple. So let's see if we can start plugging these bits in. So we're going to copy and paste the task that we use to create the tenant, and we're going to put this in the tenant loop. And we can just replace or just put it under the debug tenant task. Add tenant from loop. And it's going to be tenant loop. So the tenant name is going to be a variable, and that is tenant loop name. Via looping. All right, so that should create the tenant. So the Ansible host, username, and password should all be the same. It's not going to change in any iteration of the loop. but we've got the loop there. Okay, so we're good there. And let's go to VRF. So we'll copy this over. See, I did not want to diagnose issues with the modules in a loop. So I wanted to do them all just one at a time before I move them into the loops, so that, that makes it easier for me to progress. Because and I like to test in little bits as I go along. Otherwise, if I run into a problem, there's like 14 different steps that the problem might have cropped up in. So if I've got it working and then I do another simple step and then I've got a problem, I'm pretty sure I know where the problem occurred. Versus if I do 14 steps and I haven't tested anything, if I do have a problem, it could be in one of 14 different places. So I'm going to copy the VRF and then put it into the VRF loop. I'm super stoked about this. I was like thinking about it in the shower. I was thinking about it on my walk. I was thinking about, so this was like haunting my thoughts. I was going to give up on it. And I thought, you know what, this is just better in Python. But like if I could figure this out, this might be useful for other things. So I did figure it out. Again, shout out to Greg for coming up for that video, which pointed me in the right direction. Okay, so pasted it in there, and then I just have to place the VRF. I'm going to move this up. So where we want the tenant, that's going to be, that was from the tenant loop name. So that should still have the variable in this iteration of the loop. And then the VRF should be, oh, by the way, you know what I need to do? I need to install a quick module here. Extension. I want to put in Ansible. Because it was bothering me that no, I don't want to do any of that. It was bothering, oh, there we go. So now I'm getting the better, now I'm getting the, oosh, it is giving me lots of problems here. Expected string. I think it's just, yeah, it was just the indentation. Okay, let me fix this one too. The linter is like that spell check. And it was, so install the Ansible linter so that it could give me a little bit better, well, it didn't really do much here. Anyway, so Ansible host, tenant loop, and then the VRF is the VRF loop name. So that'll be the VRF name, and then policy will be enforced or unenforced. Did I put that in the data model? I think I did. Enforced, yeah. So I want, that's the VRF loop. And that will be, well, there's enforced or unenforced. And then we're going to kick off the bridge domain loop. So we'll go to the bridge domain. I'll just copy that information. Indentation, and so we'll move the tenant up, just so we're doing tenant VRF bridge domain, which is what it is. So VRF. So I can just copy this part, copy, and then this will be the domain loop name. Bridge domain loop name. Then we're going to kick off the subnet loop. So I'm going to copy this. And then the subnet loop. It doesn't kick off any loops, so I don't need a loop statement at the bottom because it's the bottom of the unrefined dream space. And then I'll copy the Every subnet will have to have a subnet. Actually, I don't know if it needs all this information. I think I ran into an issue yesterday. No, it does need the information because it just worked. So we just tested it. Loop name. No, we only needed tenant and bridge domain. We don't need the VRF. We do need the gateway, so that would be subnet loop. I think gateway. See what I put it in the data structure. IP. So it's just IP, not IP and mask. So we'll put that in there as IP, subnet loop IP, and then subnet loop mask. So this should now work. This should, when I run this, it should log into the APIC and then just automatically add these tenants. So we should see a bunch of tenants come up here. So let's give it a try. We're going to run the loop ACI, see what happens. Okay, value of control policy must be of enforced or unenforced. Got it. Okay, so I did a logic statement. So I just have to. So enforced, unenforced. And this will be unenforced. And here I can just do enforced. See both, because it's one or the other. See if that works. Yeah, it's working. It's looping through each one. I've got some errors, and that's the subnet because the subnet doesn't exist. It's probably a better way to handle that, but let's see if it worked. Yep, tenant 1, tenant 2, tenant 3. We'll take a look at tenant 1. We've got VRFs. We got 2 VRFs. Do we have bridge domains? Yep, we got a bunch of bridge domains. Do they have subnets? Yes. So that's it. Yeah, that was quick and easy. Let me go ahead and add get. And then sync those changes. Now they're on GitHub. So this is a really quick and easy way to, if you want to manage manage an ACI cluster. This would be a great way to manage the logical part. At some point, I'll probably do one for the much more bonkers access policies, but that'll probably take some thinking how to do everything in YAML because there's so many objects. You create a physical domain and a VLAN pool, and then you attach the physical domain to an AEP, the AEP to an interface policy group. The interface policy group has about 20 different policies you have to select and create, or create and select. Then that's referenced by an interface selector on an interface policy, and then that's referenced by a switch profile, interface profile. It's really complicated. Like, it was bonkers what they were trying to do, and that's something where Ansible could really, really help because it would just configure everything for you on that. So. But I'm not going to do that today. So I want to do a follow-up from yesterday's stream. And because I left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger because I didn't know how I could do those recursive loops. And it, the document, I want to show you the documentation on recursive loops. This was not very encouraging as I was looking through this. So Ansible loops. Nested loops. The simplest way to nest loops is to avoid nesting loops, like right there. So I was like, oh great. That's not helpful at all. And look at this stuff. Like this is pretty bonkers. There's a lot of like processing of the data. And this avoids most of that. It's a little bit hard to keep track of what we're looping through. So that's why I prefaced each one of the tasks, the task files with an L layer. So how far into the loop are we? So that made it a lot easier for me to keep track of. So it's not I don't know if I would describe this as elegant. It's elegant adjacent. It's not inelegant, but I wouldn't say it's beautiful, but it's elegant adjacent, and it certainly works. And I think it actually works out pretty well. So again, shout out to Greg. Thank you for your video. That definitely put me in the right direction for this. And you can go down as far as you want to go in terms of loops. Okay. So that's it for this stream.